Ryan never thought a simple museum visit would change his entire life. He was just a regular guy from Chicago, working as a computer programmer, taking his first vacation in 3 years. London seemed like the perfect place to clear his head, after his recent breakup and the stress of his demanding job. The Royal Heritage Museum was packed that Tuesday afternoon. Tourists pushed past each other, cameras flashing, voices echoing off the ancient walls. Ryan felt overwhelmed by the crowds, and the jet lag was hitting him hard. He'd been awake for almost 20 hours straight, thanks to his delayed flight and the time difference. Walking through the medieval section, Ryan admired the old armor and weapons displayed behind glass cases. Everything looked so grand and important. But his feet were killing him, and his head felt fuzzy from exhaustion. He just needed to sit down for a few minutes, maybe check his phone and figure out where to grab lunch. That's when he spotted it. In a dimly lit corner, away from the main crowd, stood what looked like an ornate wooden chair. It was beautiful, with carved details and red velvet cushions. Ryan figured it must be one of those replica pieces that museums sometimes put out for visitors to take photos with. He'd seen similar setups at other museums back home. Without thinking twice, Ryan walked over and sat down heavily. The chair was surprisingly comfortable. He pulled out his phone to check his messages and maybe take a selfie to send to his friends back home. The carved armrests felt smooth under his hands, and for a moment he felt like royalty. But his peaceful moment didn't last long. Sir, please stand up immediately." Ryan looked up to see a security guard rushing toward him, panic written all over his face. Behind him came another guard, and then another. Soon, there were 5 uniformed people surrounding the chair, all looking terrified. "I'm sorry, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to sit here," Ryan said, quickly standing up. "Is this not for visitors?" The first guard, an older man with gray hair, looked like he might faint. "Sir, do you have any idea what you just did?" Ryan looked around, confused. "I sat in a chair? Look, if there's a fine or something, I can pay it. I really didn't see any signs." "That's not just any chair," another guard said, her voice shaking. "That's the Pemberton ceremonial throne. It's over 400 years old and worth more than most people make in a lifetime." Ryan's stomach dropped. "Oh no. Did I damage it? I'm so sorry. I thought it was a replica for photos." But the guards weren't worried about damage. They were whispering among themselves, making phone calls and looking at Ryan like he was some kind of alien. Other visitors started gathering around, sensing drama. Within minutes, a woman in a business suit appeared. She introduced herself as Dr. Patricia Wells, the museum's director. She looked stressed, but tried to maintain her professional composure. "Mr. She paused, waiting for his name. "Thompson. Ryan Thompson," he said, feeling more confused by the minute. "Mr. Thompson, I need to ask you some questions. What's today's date?" "May 15th, Ryan answered, wondering if he'd hit his head somehow. Dr. Wells exchanged glances with her staff. "And you sat on the throne willingly? No one forced you or dared you to do it?" "No, I just thought it was a photo prop. Why is everyone acting so weird about this?" Dr. Wells took a deep breath. "Mr. Thompson, there's something you need to know about that throne. It's not just a historical artifact. According to an old law that was never officially removed from the books, anyone who sits on the Pemberton throne during the season of roses has certain legal implications." "What kind of legal implications?" Ryan asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. "Well, technically speaking, you're now legally engaged to be married to the current heir of the Pemberton family." Ryan stared at her for a long moment, then burst out laughing. "That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You're joking, right? Like this is some kind of tourist prank?" But no one else was laughing. Dr. Wells pulled out her phone and showed Ryan a photo of an old document. "This is the original law, written in 1623. It states that during the season of roses, which runs from May 1st to June 21st, any person who sits upon the throne becomes betrothed to the heir. The law was created to prevent political marriages and give the heir a chance to marry for love rather than duty. But that's ancient history, Ryan protested. Nobody follows laws from the 1600s anymore. Actually, Mr. Thompson, unless a law is officially repealed, it remains valid. This particular law has been forgotten for so long that no one bothered to remove it. We've already contacted our legal department, and they confirmed that technically, this law could still be enforceable. Ryan felt dizzy. This couldn't be happening. He came to London to relax and forget his problems, not to accidentally get engaged to a stranger. So what does this mean exactly? Do I need to call a lawyer? Am I in trouble? You're not in trouble, Dr. Wells assured him. But we do need to document this incident properly. The current heir will need to be notified, and there will probably be some legal paperwork to sort out. The Pemberton family has lawyers who specialize in these types of unusual situations. As museum staff took photos of Ryan next to the throne and filled out incident reports, he couldn't help but think about how he'd explain this to his friends and family. How do you tell people you accidentally got engaged by sitting in the wrong chair? The irony wasn't lost on him. Just 6 months ago, his girlfriend of 3 years had broken up with him because he was afraid of commitment. Now he was potentially engaged to someone he'd never even met, all because he needed to rest his feet. Dr. Wells handed him a business card and a thick folder of documents. Mr. Thompson, I suggest you contact a lawyer when you get back to your hotel. The Pemberton family's representatives will likely reach out to you within the next few days to discuss the situation. As Ryan left the museum, his head spinning with disbelief, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just taken a very unexpected turn. The London vacation that was supposed to help him figure out his future had suddenly become a lot more complicated than he'd ever imagined. Walking down the busy street, Ryan looked at the business card in his hand and wondered what kind of person he'd just accidentally gotten engaged to. Was she young or old, nice or terrible? Did she even know what had happened yet? One thing was certain. This was definitely not how he'd planned to spend his vacation. 3 days passed before Ryan heard anything about his crazy museum incident. He spent those days trying to enjoy London, but every time he sat down anywhere, he found himself checking if it was just a regular chair. The whole thing felt like a weird dream. Then, on Friday morning, a fancy envelope arrived at his hotel. The paper was thick and expensive, with gold lettering that read, Pemberton Estate. Ryan's hands shook a little as he opened it. Inside was a polite invitation written in elegant handwriting asking him to visit the estate for afternoon tea to discuss their unique situation. The address was somewhere in the Cotswolds, about 2 hours from London. Ryan spent the entire morning debating whether to go. Part of him wanted to just fly back to Chicago and pretend none of this ever happened, but curiosity got the better of him. He had to know who this mysterious person was that he'd accidentally gotten engaged to. The drive through the English countryside was beautiful. Rolling green hills, stone walls, and sheep everywhere. Ryan had rented a small car, and he got lost twice before finally finding the right turnoff. When he saw the Pemberton estate for the first time, his jaw dropped. It wasn't just a house. It was a proper mansion. 3 stories tall, built from honey-colored stone, with perfectly manicured gardens stretching as far as he could see. There were at least 20 windows across the front, and ivy climbing up the walls. It looked like something from a movie. Ryan parked his little rental car next to a fountain and felt completely out of place. His jeans and sneakers suddenly seemed very inappropriate. He was about to turn around and leave when the front door opened. A woman stepped out, and Ryan's first thought was that she looked nothing like he'd imagined. He'd been picturing either a spoiled rich girl or an elderly lady with 20 cats. Instead, the person walking toward him appeared to be around his age, with long brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans, too, which made him feel slightly better. You must be Ryan. she said, extending her hand with a warm smile. I'm Kate Pemberton. I'm really sorry about all this craziness. Ryan shook her hand, surprised by how normal she seemed. Nice to meet you. And yeah, this whole thing is pretty wild. Kate laughed, and the sound was genuine and friendly. That's one word for it. Come on, let's go inside. I'll show you around and we can figure out what to do about our accidental engagement. The inside of the house was even more impressive than the outside. High ceilings, oil paintings of serious-looking people in old-fashioned clothes, and furniture that probably cost more than Ryan's car. But Kate led him through it all like it was perfectly normal, chatting easily about the weather and his drive from London. They ended up in a cozy sitting room with big windows overlooking the gardens. A tea service was already set up, proper china cups, little sandwiches, and fancy cookies. Ryan had never had afternoon tea before, but Kate made it. Feel casual and comfortable. So, Kate said, pouring tea into delicate cups, I guess we should talk about the elephant in the room. You mean the fact that I accidentally proposed to you by sitting in the wrong chair? Ryan said, accepting his cup carefully. Kate grinned. Exactly that. I have to admit, when my lawyer called to tell me what happened, I thought it was a joke. I mean, who gets engaged like this? Apparently us, Ryan said, taking a sip of tea. It was actually pretty good. I still can't believe this is real. Oh, it's real all right, Kate said, her expression becoming more serious. I've had 3 different lawyers look at that old law, and they all say the same thing. Technically, we're engaged according to the legal documents. The question is, what do we do about it? Ryan studied her face. Kate seemed genuinely nice, which was a relief. At least he hadn't accidentally gotten engaged to someone horrible. What do you want to do about it? Kate was quiet for a moment, stirring sugar into her tea. Can I be completely honest with you? Please do. This estate has been in my family for over 300 years. My parents died in a car accident 5 years ago, and I inherited everything when I was 21. Since then, I've been trying to keep it going, but it's not easy. Old houses like this cost a fortune to maintain, and there's always something, breaking or needing repair. Ryan nodded, listening carefully. The thing is, Kate continued, I've been working really hard to modernize our image. We do weddings here now, and historical tours, and I'm trying to turn part of the house into a conference center. The last thing I need is some weird scandal about ancient marriage laws. It would be all over the newspapers, and people would think, we're just a bunch of crazy aristocrats living in the past. So you want to get out of this engagement as quickly as possible, Ryan said, trying not to feel offended. Well, yes and no, Kate said, surprising him. My lawyers think they can find a way to nullify the old law, but it might take several months. In the meantime, if word gets out that I'm engaged to a complete stranger because of some medieval rule, it could really hurt the business I've worked so hard to build. Ryan waited for her to continue, sensing there was more. So, I have a proposition for you, Kate said, leaning forward slightly. What if we pretended to be actually engaged for a while, just until my legal team can sort this out properly? That way, if anyone asks questions, we can just say we're a normal couple who got engaged in a romantic way. Ryan nearly choked on his tea. You want us to fake being engaged? Think about it, Kate said. You're here on vacation anyway, right? How long were you planning to stay in England? I took a month off work, Ryan admitted. Perfect. Stay here for a few weeks. I'll put you up in one of the guest rooms, show you around the countryside, and we can get to know each other. If anyone asks, we'll just say we're engaged and planning our future together. It gives my lawyers time to work, and it gives you a free vacation in a beautiful place. Ryan stared at her. The whole thing sounded insane, but also kind of appealing. His apartment back in Chicago felt empty and depressing after his breakup. Work was stressful and boring, and Kate seemed like someone he could actually be friends with. What's in it for you? He asked. Kate smiled. Honestly, I could use the help. Running this place is a lot of work, and I don't have many people I can really talk to. Plus, you work with computers, right? I'm terrible with technology, and the estate's website is a disaster. Maybe you could help me fix it." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both thinking. "This is completely crazy," Ryan finally said. "Completely," Kate agreed. "But it might actually work." "It might." Ryan looked around the beautiful room, then back at Kate's hopeful face. What did he have to lose? His boring life in Chicago would still be there when he got back. "Okay," he said. "Let's try it." Living at the Pemberton estate turned out to be nothing like Ryan had imagined. Kate gave him a beautiful guest room on the second floor with a view of the gardens, and every morning he woke up thinking he was in some kind of fairy tale. The tea house was incredible, but it was also falling apart in ways that weren't obvious at first glance. The first week was awkward but fun. Kate showed him around the property, which was huge. There were gardens, a small lake, walking trails, and even an old stable that they were converting into an event space. Kate worked constantly, always fixing something or planning the next project. Ryan quickly realized she wasn't just some rich person living off family money. She was working harder than anyone he knew to keep the place running. Ryan started helping with the estate's computer problems, and it was worse than he thought. Their website looked like it was built in 1995, their booking system was a mess, and they weren't even using social media properly. Kate was brilliant at history and business, but she admitted that technology made her want to hide under a rock. "I can't even figure out how to post photos on Instagram," she confessed one afternoon while Ryan worked on updating their website. "My cousin keeps telling me I need to be more online, but every time I try, I just break something." Ryan found himself genuinely enjoying the work. It felt good to use his skills for something meaningful instead of just making some corporation more money. Kate was an eager student, asking lots of questions and taking notes when he showed her how things worked. Their fake engagement story got its first test when Kate's friend Lucy came to visit. Lucy was loud, funny, and immediately suspicious of Ryan. "So let me get this straight," Lucy said over dinner, pointing her fork at Ryan. "You two met at a museum, fell madly in love, and got engaged all in the same week?" Kate had warned Ryan that Lucy was sharp and wouldn't be easy to fool. They'd practiced their story, but sitting there under Lucy's intense stare, Ryan felt like he was about to blow their cover. "Well, when you know," Ryan said, trying to sound romantic. He reached over and took Kate's hand, surprised by how natural it felt. Kate smiled at him, and for a moment, Ryan forgot they were acting. "Ryan's not like anyone I've ever met," she said softly. "He makes me laugh, and he actually listens when I talk about the estate's problems instead of just telling me to sell it." Lucy looked back and forth between them, then shrugged. "Okay, I believe you. You both look happy, and that's what matters. Just promise me the wedding will be here at the estate. It'll be gorgeous." After Lucy left, Ryan and Kate sat in the garden with cups of tea, both feeling relieved. "That went better than I expected," Kate said. "You're a pretty good actor." "So are you," Ryan replied. "For a minute there, I almost believed we were really engaged." They laughed, but there was something different in the air between them. Spending so much time together was making their fake relationship feel less fake every day. The real test came 2 weeks later at a charity event in the nearby town. Kate had to attend because the Pemberton family had been sponsors for years, and as her fiancé, Ryan was expected to come too. Kate spent an hour teaching him which fork to use for what and reminding him about the people they'd meet. The event was fancier than anything Ryan had ever attended. Everyone was dressed in expensive clothes, drinking champagne, and talking about things like polo matches and yacht clubs. Ryan felt completely out of place in his borrowed suit, but Kate stayed close to him, making introductions and including him in conversations. Everything was going smoothly until they ran into James Wellington, Kate's ex-boyfriend from university. James was tall, perfectly dressed, and had the kind of confidence that came from never doubting he belonged anywhere. "Kate, darling," James said, kissing her cheek. "You look absolutely stunning. I heard through the grapevine that you're engaged. How exciting. His tone suggested it was anything but exciting. James, this is Ryan, my fiancé, Kate said, her voice tight. Ryan, this is James. We went to university together. James looked Ryan up and down like he was examining a bug. Fascinating. And what do you do, Ryan? I work with computers, Ryan said simply. How modern, James said with a fake smile. I suppose someone has to do those sorts of jobs. Tell me, how did you two meet? I'm simply dying to know how our... Kate ended up with someone so... unexpected. Ryan felt his temper rising. He could handle people being snobby, but the way James was talking about Kate like she was his property made Ryan's blood boil. We met at a museum, Ryan said calmly. Kate was looking at a medieval exhibit, and I was struck by how passionate she was about history. We started talking, and I realized I'd never met anyone so smart and dedicated to something meaningful. Kate looked surprised. They'd agreed on the museum story, but Ryan was adding details they'd never discussed. She told me about all the work she's doing here at the estate, Ryan continued, turning it into something that celebrates history while also being sustainable for the future. Most people just inherit something and coast on it, but Kate actually cares about making it better. I fell in love with her mind first, and everything else followed. James's fake smile faltered a bit. How romantic. Well, I'm sure you'll be very happy together. As James walked away, Kate stared at Ryan. Where did that come from? I don't like bullies, Ryan said. And I really don't like the way he was talking to you. So you defended my honor? Kate asked, a small smile playing at her lips. Someone had to. Besides, everything I said was true. You are passionate and smart and dedicated. Kate was quiet for a moment. Thank you. That means a lot. The rest of the evening went smoothly, but something had changed between them. When they got home, instead of going straight to their separate rooms like usual, they sat in the kitchen talking until almost midnight. Kate told Ryan about how hard it had been when her parents died and how alone she'd felt trying to figure out how to run the estate. Ryan talked about his ex-girlfriend and how she'd made him feel like he wasn't ambitious enough or successful enough. She wanted me to want things I didn't actually want, Ryan said. A bigger apartment, a fancier car, a more impressive job title. I never felt like I was enough just as I was. That's terrible, Kate said. You shouldn't have to change yourself to make someone else happy, says the woman who's pretending to be engaged to a stranger, Ryan pointed out. Kate laughed. Fair point. But this is different. I'm not asking you to be someone else. I'm just asking you to pretend to like me. That's the thing, Ryan said quietly. I'm not pretending anymore. They looked at each other across the kitchen table, and Ryan realized their fake engagement was turning into something real, at least for him. The question was, did Kate feel the same way? But before either of them could say anything else, the kitchen door burst open. An elderly woman with silver hair and sharp eyes stood in the doorway, clearly having let herself in. Catherine, the woman said in a crisp voice, we need to talk. Kate's face went pale. Great Aunt Beatrice. What are you doing here? The older woman's eyes fixed on Ryan. I'm here to meet this mysterious fiancé I've been hearing about. Something about this whole situation doesn't smell right to me. Ryan gulped. Their fake engagement was about to face its biggest test yet. Great Aunt Beatrice was like a detective in pearls and a tweed suit. She had sharp eyes that seemed to see everything, and she asked questions that made Ryan sweat. For the next 3 days, she watched every move they made, looking for cracks in their story. Tell me again how you proposed, she said to Ryan over breakfast on her second morning there. Ryan glanced at Kate, who was buttering toast and trying to look calm. They'd practiced this story dozens of times, but under Beatrice's intense stare, Ryan's mind went blank. Well, it wasn't really a traditional proposal. He started carefully. We were at the museum, and Kate was explaining this medieval exhibit. to me. She was so passionate about the history, so knowledgeable. I just knew she was the one. And then what happened? Beatrice pressed. I sat down on this old chair to listen to her better, and when the museum staff came over, they told us about the ancient law. It felt like fate, you know? Like the universe was telling us we belonged together. Beatrice made a little humming sound that could have meant anything. Kate jumped in to help. It was terribly romantic, actually, Kate said, reaching over to squeeze Ryan's hand. Most men would have run away screaming, but Ryan stayed. He said if we were legally engaged, we might as well see if we were meant to be. How modern, Beatrice said dryly. And you're planning to live here permanently, Ryan? This was the question Ryan had been dreading. He and Kate hadn't really talked about what would happen after their fake engagement ended. We're still working out the details, he said honestly. It's a big decision, moving to another country. Indeed it is, Beatrice agreed. Catherine, dear, might I have a word with you privately? Kate's face went pale, but she nodded. Of course, Aunt Beatrice. Ryan, why don't you work on the website updates? I'll meet you in the office later. Ryan spent the next hour staring at his laptop screen, unable to concentrate. What if Beatrice had figured out their secret? What if she convinced Kate to end their arrangement? The thought bothered him more than it should have. When Kate finally appeared in the office, she looked shaken. What did she say? Ryan asked immediately. Kate closed the door and leaned against it. She knows. Ryan's heart sank. She knows we're faking it? Not exactly. But she thinks something's not right. She told me that real couples have a certain energy between them, and she's not seeing it with us. Kate walked over to the window and stared out at the gardens. She said we act like friends pretending to be in love, not like people who actually are in love. So what do we do? Kate turned back to him, and Ryan was surprised to see tears in her eyes. Maybe we should just tell her the truth. I hate lying to family, even family as scary as Aunt Beatrice. Hey, Ryan said, standing up and walking over to her. It's okay. We'll figure something out. Without thinking, he put his arms around Kate in a comforting hug. She leaned into him, and for a moment, they just stood there holding each other. It felt natural and right, not like acting at all. I'm sorry I got you into this mess, Kate whispered. I'm not sorry, Ryan said, and he realized he meant it. These past few weeks have been the best I've had in years. Kate pulled back to look at him. Really? Really? I love working on the estate projects. I love our morning walks around the property. I love how excited you get when you talk about history. I even love arguing with you about the best way to organize the booking system. They were standing very close now, and Ryan could see flecks of gold in Kate's brown eyes. Ryan, she said, softly. Yeah? I don't think I'm pretending anymore either. Before Ryan could respond, the office door opened and Beatrice walked in. She took one look at them standing close together, their faces inches apart, and raised an eyebrow. Well, she said with satisfaction, that's more like it. Kate and Ryan jumped apart, both blushing furiously. I was just, Kate started. Getting some comfort from your fiancé, Beatrice finished. As you should. Real couples support each other through difficult times. She smiled, looking genuinely pleased for the first time since she'd arrived. I apologize for doubting you both. I can see now that you're very much in love. After Beatrice left them alone, Kate and Ryan stood in awkward silence. So, Ryan said, finally. That happened. That happened, Kate agreed. They spent the next few days dancing around their feelings, both afraid to bring up what had almost happened in the office. But everything felt different now. Their fake relationship had real emotions behind it, which made it both easier and more complicated. The breaking point came when Kate got devastating news from her accountant. The estate was in worse financial trouble than she'd realized. Despite all her hard work with the wedding business and tours, they were still losing money every month. She had two choices: sell the estate to developers or find a way to raise a huge amount of money very quickly. Kate tried to hide how upset she was, but Ryan could tell something was wrong. She was quiet during dinner and kept staring off into space. "What's going on?" he asked finally. "And don't say nothing because you've been acting weird all day." Kate sighed and told him about the money problems. "I might have to sell," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. 300 years of family history, and I'm the one who loses it all. "How much money do you need?" Ryan asked. Kate told him the number, and Ryan whistled. It was a lot, but not impossible. "What if we had a big fundraising event? Something that would bring in donors and also get media attention for the estate?" "Like what?" Ryan grinned. "Like a wedding. A big public wedding that celebrates both the estate's history and its future." Kate stared at him. "You mean our wedding? But we're not really—" "We could be," Ryan said quietly. "If you wanted to be." They looked at each other across the dinner table, and Ryan felt like they were standing at the edge of a cliff, about to jump. "Ryan," Kate said carefully, "are you asking me to marry you for real? I'm asking if you want to try. No more pretending, no more fake engagement. Just us, figuring out if this thing between us could actually work." Kate was quiet for so long that Ryan started to panic. Maybe he'd misread everything. Maybe she didn't feel the same way about him. But then she smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her all day. "Yes," she said. "I want to try." Planning a real wedding while figuring out real feelings turned out to be both wonderful and terrifying. Kate threw herself into organizing the event, treating it like the biggest business project of her life. They decided to make it a medieval marriage festival that would celebrate the estate's history while raising money for its future. The idea was brilliant. They'd invite donors, media, and the public to witness a wedding that honored the same ancient traditions that had brought them together. Local businesses offered to sponsor different parts of the event, and ticket sales for the festival activities started bringing in money immediately. But as the wedding date got closer, Ryan started to panic. What if Kate was only doing this to save the estate? What if their feelings weren't as real as they thought? What if he was making the biggest mistake of his life? His doubts got worse when he received a phone call from his old company in Chicago. They were offering him a promotion and a huge raise to come back immediately. It was everything his ex-girlfriend had wanted him to achieve, and the timing felt like a sign. "You should take it," Kate said when he told her about the offer. They were sitting in the garden after dinner, watching the sunset. "What?" Ryan was shocked. "I thought you wanted me to stay." "I want you to be happy," Kate said quietly. "And I want you to choose me because you want to, not because you feel trapped by some weird situation we got ourselves into. So you're giving me an out?" "I'm giving you a choice. A real choice. Not one forced on you by an ancient law or a desperate woman trying to save her family's estate." Ryan stared at her. "Is that what you think this is? Me feeling trapped?" "Isn't it?" Kate asked. "Be honest, Ryan. 6 weeks ago, you didn't even know I existed. Now you're about to marry me and completely change your life. That's a lot to ask of anyone." "You're not asking. I'm choosing." Ryan took her hands in his. "Kate, I could have left any time. I could have gone back to Chicago after that first week, or after we met Beatrice, or any time since then. But I stayed because I wanted to stay. But the job offer is just a job offer. There will always be other jobs, but there's only one you." Kate's eyes filled with tears. What if we're making a mistake? What if we're confusing gratitude and convenience with love? Ryan thought about that for a moment. "Do you know what I realized today while I was updating the booking system?" Kate shook her head. "I was excited about the wedding bookings we have for next spring. Not because of the money, but because I was imagining us running those events together. I was thinking about how you'd handle the historical tours and I'd manage the tech stuff, and how we'd make a good team. Ryan, I'm not done, he said, gently. I also realize that when I picture my future now, it's here, with you, in this crazy old house that's always falling apart, fighting about whether to update the heating system or fix the roof first, teaching you how to use Instagram, while you teach me about medieval history. Kate was crying now, but she was smiling too. I love you, Ryan said simply. Not because of any ancient law or fake engagement or business arrangement. I love you because you're smart and brave and you make me want to be better than I am. I love the way you worry about the estate's future and the way you remember every guest's name. I love that you put honey in your tea and that you sing old songs when you think no one can hear you. I love you too, Kate whispered. I love how you make everything seem possible. I love that you see solutions where I only see problems. I love that you stayed when anyone else would have run away. They kissed then, right there in the garden as the stars came out, and it felt like the first real moment of their entire relationship. The wedding day was perfect. The weather cooperated, the medieval reenactors were entertaining, and the media coverage was exactly what they'd hoped for. But the best part was standing at the altar in the estate's old chapel, promising to love each other for real this time. When the officiant asked if Ryan took Kate to be his wife, he didn't hesitate. I do, he said, thinking about how far they'd come from that ridiculous day at the museum. When Kate said I do back, her voice was strong and clear. No doubts. No pretending, just truth. The festival raised enough money to secure the estate's future for years to come. But more importantly, it marked the beginning of their real life together. 6 months later, Ryan was working in the estate office when he got an email that made him laugh out loud. The Royal Heritage Museum wanted to hire him to update their website and create a digital archive system. Apparently, their current site was tragically outdated, and they'd heard he was excellent with historical organizations. What's so funny? Kate asked, coming in with afternoon tea. Ryan showed her the email. They want me to come back to the museum where this all started. Kate grinned. Are you going to take it? Only if they promise to put better signs around. That throne, Ryan said. We can't have other people accidentally getting engaged. That's our thing. Kate laughed and kissed him. Forever and always. Our ridiculous, wonderful thing. Looking back, Ryan couldn't believe how much his life had changed because he sat in the wrong chair. But he wouldn't change a single moment of it. Sometimes the best adventures begin with the biggest accidents, and sometimes the most unexpected love stories turn out to be the most real ones of all.